They say a home reflects the soul of the people who live in it. If that's true, then mine must reflect someone else's entirely. Someone like Margaret. Cream-colored walls, porcelain cat figurines, doilies under every vase, and a faint smell of lavender that never quite fades. Ethan swears he picked everything out, but I've seen the same patterns in his mother's house. The same stiff-backed chairs. The same framed quote in the hallway, "A quiet woman is a blessing." I always hated that quote. But I never said anything. Because I was the good wife. My name is Claire. I'm 32, a registered nurse, senior shift lead at one of the busiest hospitals in the city. I've been working double shifts for the past 3 months. We're short-staffed, and I can't stand the thought of leaving the others scrambling. Besides, someone has to keep the bills paid. Ethan is still figuring things out. It's been 2 years since he left his last job. First, it was burnout. Then, he was going to freelance. Then a passion project. Now, he's trying to write a novel, but I haven't seen him type more than 5 pages. Most mornings, I leave the house before sunrise. I make breakfast, pack his lunch, and feed our cat, Minnie. Ethan likes to sleep in. I don't blame him. It must be exhausting doing nothing all day. Margaret, his mother, lives just 2 blocks away. She's here most afternoons, always with something to say about how I fold the laundry or season the chicken. Sometimes she brings meals just in case Claire is too tired to cook. I smile. I thank her. I grind my teeth in the privacy of the bathroom. It wasn't always like this. When Ethan and I met, I was 27 and he was charming, in that wild, romantic, tortured artist kind of way. He listened when I spoke, brought me flowers just because, and once made me a scrapbook of our first 6 months together. His mom seemed sweet at first. Overbearing maybe, but well-meaning. I used to think we were building something together. That this, our home, our marriage, our life, was ours. Now, I'm not so sure. Somewhere along the way, I stopped being a partner and started feeling like a maid. A nurse. A wallet. And worst of all, like an intruder in my own house. Tonight, after another 12-hour shift, I come home to find Margaret in my kitchen again. She's rearranging the spice rack. "I told Ethan this layout doesn't make sense," she says with a smile. "You really should move the cumin." I force a laugh. "Sure. I'll take a look later." Ethan's on the couch, watching some documentary with the sound up too loud. He doesn't look up when I walk in. Just mutters, "Hey babe," like I'm the mailman. I go upstairs, take off my scrubs, and stand in the shower longer than I need to, hoping the hot water will melt the tightness in my chest. It doesn't. Later in bed, I lie awake while Ethan scrolls through his phone. He doesn't notice when I turn away from him. I stare at the ceiling and wonder, how did I end up here? Working myself to the bone for a man who doesn't see me, and a mother-in-law who never wanted me. I was the good wife, but I don't know how much longer I can be her. The morning sunlight filters through the blinds, catching flecks of dust in the air. Our kitchen looks like a spread from a lifestyle magazine, but it feels like a stage set, artificial and stiff. Ethan sits across from me, scrolling through his phone while I stir cream into my coffee. Margaret is perched at the counter. She brought muffins again, her famous cranberry orange ones that taste like potpourri. She watches me eat with tight-lipped judgment, like I'm doing it wrong somehow. "So," I say, clearing my throat, "my supervisor pulled me aside yesterday." Ethan doesn't look up. Margaret does. They offered me a new position. Hospital-wide coordinator. It's a big step up, more leadership, better hours, and more time away from home. Margaret cuts in, her tone deceptively sweet. I blink. Not necessarily. I mean, I could set my own schedule more easily and... "Claire," she says, with that tilt of the head that makes her seem almost compassionate. "Don't you think you're already stretched too thin? You barely have time for Ethan now. And if you take this job..." She trails off, letting the implication hang in the air. Ethan finally puts his phone down. "She's not wrong," he says quietly. "We've been talking about trying for a baby." My stomach tightens. I didn't realize we'd decided on that. I mean... "We're not getting any younger," he says with a shrug. "And you've been so busy lately." Maybe this isn't the right time to add even more to your plate. I press my lips together. There it is. The unspoken belief that my ambition is a threat. That my drive to grow is a personal betrayal. I thought this was for us, I say. A better title, more pay, less time stuck in back-to-back shifts. It's not like I'm running off to space. Ethan sighs. I just don't want to lose you to your career. And Margaret, right on cue, murmurs, "You're already halfway there." I stare at them, my husband and his mother, united in their subtle disapproval, their quiet resistance. I feel like an outsider again. Like I've stumbled into someone else's family meeting. Later at work, I sit in the quiet of the staff break room, the promotion offer heavy on my mind. "Claire, you're a natural," my supervisor had said, smiling. "You keep the team together. This hospital needs leaders like you." I'd smiled back, nodded, said I'd think about it. And now I sit here wondering why I feel guilty for being good at what I do. Why does success feel like betrayal? That night, Ethan asks me again, as we lie in bed, facing opposite directions. "You're still thinking about the job?" "Yes," I whisper. He's quiet for a long time before saying, "I just want us to be a family. You know? I want to feel like we're in sync again." I bite my tongue. Because what I want to say is that we haven't been in sync for a long time. Not since I started carrying all the weight and pretending it was light. But I don't say it. Instead, I nod in the dark and say the words I always do. I'm doing this for us. It started with the trip to the bank. I was only there to deposit a check from an overtime shift. I wasn't even planning to check our savings, but something nudged me, a whisper of unease that had been tugging at me for weeks. When I asked the teller for the balance, she read the number aloud with a smile. And my heart dropped. "Are you sure?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "That can't be right." She nodded politely. "Would you like a printed statement?" The slip of paper in my hand felt like a betrayal. Thousands of dollars were gone. Gone. The emergency fund we'd built together, all those skipped takeout meals and hand-me-down furniture and shared sacrifices, drained. I walked out in a daze. I didn't cry, not yet. I just drove home with the kind of calm you feel when you're standing in the eye of a storm. That night, I waited until after dinner. Ethan was on the couch, half watching a documentary, his phone in hand. Margaret was, thankfully, not around. I sat down across from him, gripping the statement. "Did you take money out of our savings?" He blinked. "Oh, what?" I handed him the paper. He read it, scratched the back of his neck. "Oh," he said. "Yeah. I meant to tell you." "Meant to tell me?" "Ethan, where did it go?" He hesitated, then shrugged. "Mom needed help. She's dealing with this legal thing. The neighbors are trying to claim part of her property line, and she had to get a lawyer. It was urgent." I stared at him. "So you just helped yourself to our savings? Without even asking me?" He put his hands up like I was being unreasonable. "It's not like I blew it at a casino, Claire. This is my mother. She's under so much stress. And now I am too," I snapped. "Because I thought we made decisions like this together." "She needed the money," he said defensively. "What was I supposed to do? Let her lose the case?" "You were supposed to talk to me." He stood up, pacing. "Jesus, Claire, you're acting like I robbed you. Did you even consider what this would mean for us? For our future? We're trying to save for a house. For kids." "That's rich," he cut in, laughing bitterly. "You're always at work. When were we gonna have kids exactly? During your third double shift of the week?" The words hit like a slap. I felt the breath leave my lungs. He saw it, and didn't stop. "You've become so cold, so focused on your job. Maybe I didn't want to burden you with one more thing." The room was spinning. My pulse thundered in my ears. And under all of it, hurt, not just at what he'd done, but at how easily he turned it back on me. Later that night, after the silence had swallowed our apartment whole, I sat alone on the edge of our bed, going through old bank statements on my phone. There were more transactions, payments I didn't recognize, withdrawals I hadn't approved, things he hadn't told me about. And all of it made one truth painfully clear: I didn't know my husband anymore. Or worse, maybe I never really did. I wasn't supposed to be at the law office. I was there dropping off medical records for one of our patients. Routine, mundane, part of a long list of errands I barely had time for. I was tired, under-caffeinated, and hoping to get in and out without making conversation. Then I saw it. Sitting on the receptionist's desk, just behind a pile of folders, was a document with our address on it. My name, Claire Weston, Ethan Weston, and Margaret Weston. Can I help you with something? The receptionist asked, her voice friendly but cautious. I pointed at the folder. Sorry. That file, does it have to do with property? She hesitated. I'm not really allowed to share client information. I live at that address, I said, my voice sharper than I intended. That's my house. The woman's expression shifted, not cruelly, but with a trace of sympathy. It's just a transfer of ownership. Looks like half of it's being signed over to a family member. She tapped the name. Margaret Weston. I don't remember the drive home. He was in the kitchen, making coffee like it was any other Tuesday. I walked in and tossed the document on the counter. Want to explain this? He blinked. Where did you get that? You signed over half our house. To your mother, without telling me. Without asking. It's my house too, he said, his jaw tight. I don't need your permission. I laughed. A sound that came out far too close to a sob. Your house? Ethan? I paid the down payment. I've been paying the mortgage, every month. While you, what? Played video games and funded your mother's legal circus? He slammed his mug down. You never let me forget it, do you? Every time I try to contribute, you act like I'm stealing from you. Because you are, Ethan. This isn't about contribution, it's about secrecy, about betrayal. She needed security, he shot back. You were already looking for a way to push her out. Admit it. You resented her from day one. I tried, Ethan. I bent over backwards to make that woman feel welcome. But this is the thanks I get? His eyes flashed with something sharp and ugly. You would have taken everything from her the moment I got my shit together. I saw it coming, so I protected her. By gutting your own wife? His voice rose. She gave me everything. You just want control. The tears finally came. Hot, angry, humiliating. I grabbed my bag and walked out. He didn't follow. I ended up at Talia's. She opened the door, saw my face, and pulled me into a hug without asking questions. I didn't speak for the first 10 minutes. I couldn't. The only sound was my own breathing and the quiet hum of her fridge. I'm sorry, I whispered eventually. I didn't know where else to go. You don't have to explain, she said. You're home. I curled up on her couch that night, staring at the ceiling, clutching one of her throw pillows like a life raft. And somewhere between midnight and morning, a thought settled into my bones. This wasn't a fight we could fix. It was the beginning of the end. Dinner at Margaret's was always a performance. She set the table like we were dining with royalty. Crystal glasses, antique china, cloth napkins folded into swans. The roast smelled perfect, as always. Everything in her world was curated, controlled, correct. Except me. I shouldn't have gone. I knew that. But Ethan insisted. We need to show her we're still a family, he said. I almost laughed. Still a family? He'd sold me out, given away our home, and now wanted me to smile for the woman who took everything with a polite smile and a cup of tea. I sat across from her, pushing mashed potatoes around my plate, trying to ignore the tension pulsing beneath every word. So, Margaret said, sipping her wine. I heard you're staying with that loud friend of yours. Talia, I replied. She's been kind. Margaret raised an eyebrow. Of course she has. Birds of a feather. Ethan cleared his throat. A warning I no longer cared about. I set my fork down. We're separated, Margaret. I think that makes where I sleep none of your business. She smiled, tight and condescending. You always were dramatic, Claire. You could have made things work if you weren't so obsessed with being right all the time. I stared at her. I made things work while your son did nothing. I paid the bills. I supported him. I bent myself in half to make space for you in our lives. She leaned forward, venom sweet in her voice. You emasculated him. He was a good man before you turned him into your housemaid. That's when Ethan spoke. His voice was calm. Too calm. She's right. I turned to him. Excuse me? You changed, he said, not meeting my eyes. You stopped caring about us. You were always tired, always working, like we were the burden. I was working for us, Ethan. For the house, for food, for your mother's lawyer, remember? I didn't ask for that, but you took it. I said quietly. You let me drown while you stood on my shoulders. He looked away. If you're so unhappy, Claire, maybe you should go. I stood. My hands were shaking. No, maybe. I'm done. Margaret scoffed. You'll come crawling back when reality hits you. I met her eyes. I'd rather crawl through fire than step foot in this house again. I packed in silence. One suitcase, some scrubs, a few worn t-shirts, the necklace my father gave me before he passed. Ethan didn't try to stop me. He didn't ask where I was going. He just sat on the couch, watching TV like nothing was ending. I closed the door behind me and stepped into the night. The air was cold, sharp, and real. Every breath burned. But I was breathing on my own. No more pretending. No more shrinking. This was the bottom. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid of falling, because I finally knew which way was up. Talia's guest room was small, barely enough space for my suitcase and a folding chair. The walls were a faded lavender, and the mattress creaked every time I shifted in bed. But it was mine. And for the first time in a long while, I wasn't afraid of silence. The first week, I cried more than I slept. Every corner of my body ached, not just from exhaustion, but from the way grief carves itself into the bones. I went through the motions: shower, coffee, apply for jobs, repeat. Talia, let me grieve in peace. She never asked for details, never pried. Just left tea outside my door and texted heart emojis when I didn't come out for dinner. It wasn't much, but it was everything. I landed a contract job 2 weeks later. Night shifts at a mid-size hospital across town. Nothing glamorous. Long hours. Understaffed. But the pay was decent, and I was too numb to care. At first, I kept my head down. I didn't chat in the break room. I didn't smile much. But people noticed my work. My steadiness. The way I stayed calm when a trauma case rolled in at 3 a.m. The way I held a dying patient's hand when their family didn't make it in time. Nurses talk. Word spread. She's solid, I overheard one of them say during handover. One of the good ones. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear that. Slowly, the fog began to lift. I stopped checking my phone for messages that never came. I stopped blaming myself for loving the wrong man. For trusting the wrong people. For staying too long in a house that never felt like home. I started to feel proud of surviving, of walking out with nothing and still showing up. One night, during a lull, I caught myself laughing at a stupid joke in the nurse's lounge. A real laugh. Loud, unfiltered, the kind that comes from somewhere deep and long buried. And just like that, something shifted. I wasn't broken. I was rebuilding. I hadn't thought about them in weeks. Not really. Sometimes I'd see something that reminded me. A recipe I used to make for Sunday dinner, a mug with Best Mom on the shelf of a dollar store. But the ache was dull now. Scar tissue, not fresh. I was on the couch at Talia's place, still in scrubs, eating cereal for dinner when she said it. You hear about Ethan? I looked up. No. She pulled her phone out. Jen told me. He got fired. I blinked. Fired? Apparently there were some, let's say, creative discrepancies in the billing reports he was handling. His boss found out. Security walked him out in front of everyone. I didn't speak. Talia gave me a look. I thought you'd smile at least. But I didn't. I just felt hollow, like I'd already buried that part of myself. The next day, another whisper found its way to me, this time from a nurse who still lived near my old neighborhood. His mom's sick, she said while checking a patient chart. Something with the kidneys. She's not on any decent plan. They can't afford treatment. I nodded, not trusting myself to respond. Apparently, Ethan tried to reach out to his sister Danielle, the one he used to mock for being too ambitious. She didn't even return his call. Word was, they'd sold the second car. A foreclosure notice went up on the house a week later. The same house I scrubbed top to bottom while Margaret criticized the way I folded dish towels. Everything they built on my back was crumbling, brick by brick. And no one came to save them. I didn't rejoice. But I won't lie. There was peace in the knowing. Justice doesn't always come with grand gestures. Sometimes, it arrives quietly. In whispers. In silences. In the space between she's gone and we need her. I sipped my coffee that night and watched the rain smear across the window. I felt no need to call. No curiosity to check. No urge to fix what was never mine to carry. Let it fall. I hadn't seen him in over a year. The message came through Talia. Ethan wants to meet. Just talk. I agreed. Not because I missed him. Not because I needed closure. But because I deserved to look him in the eyes and feel nothing. We met at a small cafe near the hospital. Neutral ground. It was nearly empty. Only the clink of dishes and a quiet hum of jazz in the background. He looked older. Tired. Claire, he said as I sat down. His voice cracked on my name. I waited. I'm sorry, he began, his fingers tightening around the chipped coffee cup. About everything. I didn't speak. I didn't smile. I let the silence stretch. He talked. Told me about losing his job, about Margaret's condition, how she was too sick to move around now, spending most of her time in bed. The insurance wouldn't cover her treatments. He sold the last of their furniture last month. He paused, searching my face. I thought I was protecting her. I thought I was doing what a son should do. I met his eyes, steady and unmoved. You saved her, I said, voice calm as steel, but you sacrificed everything else to do it. He flinched, like I'd hit him. He opened his mouth, maybe to beg, maybe to plead, but I didn't wait. I walked out of the cafe, out into the crisp evening air, and didn't look back. I didn't need to. The new house has wide windows that drink in the morning light. It's mine. Every room, every chair, every chipped mug in the kitchen. I chose the curtains. I picked the plants. There are no ghosts here. Only breath, space, and peace. Most mornings, I walk to the clinic. I'm the lead administrator now. Funny how far that tired, overworked nurse has come. The team respects me. The patients smile when they see me. Sometimes, I catch myself smiling back without realizing. I mentor younger nurses. Especially the ones who are tired. The ones who try to be everything for everyone. I tell them the truth. You're allowed to choose yourself. I don't think about Ethan much anymore. When I do, it's like a closed book I don't feel the need to reread. Some stories end, and that's a mercy. Tonight, the air is cool, and the sky is soft with stars. I sit on my porch, a cup of tea warming my hands, and a blanket tucked around my shoulders. The silence is not empty anymore. It's whole. I think about everything I lost. And then I smile. I lost everything I didn't need, and I found everything I do.